occult is defined as beliefs or practices that are considered to be beyond the realm of ordinary science or religion, often involving the study of supernatural forces or hidden knowledge. This can be seen as individuals practicing the mystical arts, which may include people such as astrologers that believe the validity of zodiac signs, people that claim to speak to the deceased or can predict the future, and even witches to ensure we are covering a majority of the bases here. As a small side note for aspiring witches or pagan practitioners who may be watching today's video, I am simply relaying what the Urantia Book indicates about these practices, and as always, we respect all belief systems and religions on the channel. With that said, let's dive into the occult. Today's video is a little aberrant in the fact that much of today's material can most certainly be found in one section of the Urantia Book, despite there being a concentrated historical depiction to pagan practices from papers 86 to 88. Since many of the old Judean practices were steeped in light flavors associated with the occult, Christ Michael most certainly quickly discovered how much of this practice still existed in the Jewish culture. In 153.2, it indicates that Jesus Christ Michael eventually gave a discourse on magic and superstition one day after being provoked by Andrew about how back then they believed a bright new star often symbolized a great man recently being born. For those of you that know the New Testament Bible pretty well, the nativity story most certainly uses this same old pagan ideology to support Jesus' divinity. Instead of directly answering Andrew's question about a similar star appearing recently, he responded with several points of interest. Starting off on a light-footed topic of interest, I professionally do believe in planetary and star alignments that may affect a person's mental or physical well-being. Fully understanding that everything in this world is vibrational and energy-based. This is a scientific and not a spiritual perspective that I hope we will learn more about frequencies in the human brain as the years progress. The term lunatic, in fact, traces its roots in the Latin word lunaticus, which originally referred to epilepsy and general madness. These were just a few diseases that was thought to be caused by lunar cycles that was majorly accepted in psychology up until the 1970s. However, trust me when I say that when Mercury is in retrograde, well, watch out. That is a 3-week period of time I would like to go on vacation for my job as a counselor, since I most certainly see a correlation in my practice. In 153.3, the Urantia Book indicates that
the courses of the stars in the heavens have nothing whatever to do with the events of human life on Earth. Astronomy is a proper pursuit of science, but astrology is a mass of superstitious error which has no place in the gospel of the kingdom.
I'm sure this statement's surely going to be a bummer for some of my new age followers of the channel. Again, these authors that recanted Jesus' discourse were celestial beings only and do not represent the direct word of God. When it comes to 153.4, I would bet that the statement is a no-brainer for many viewers of the 21st century, but will be, of course, included due to some outlier religious faiths. All right, it goes like this.
The examination of the internal organs of an animal recently killed can reveal nothing about weather, future events, or the outcome of human affairs.
We, however, should not marginalize the occult or even mysticism, since these practices were probably one of the oldest and most practiced religions that went on for tens of thousands of years that still influence us today, such as the expression knock on wood and, of course, throwing salt over one's shoulder. Heck, these practices were so instrumental in our cultural development, there is an entire paper on ghost cult practices that can be found in paper 87, and fetishes, charms, and magic in paper 88, for those that are interested. Talking about volcano fetishes from the Urantia Book, it was this very volcano fetish that led to worshiping the spirit of the Mount Sinai, named Yahweh. For you scholars out there, it should be stated that there is great controversy as to whether the mountain was an active volcano or not. In 96.1.11, the text states that it was intermittently active up until 2000 BC. Speaking about spirits, 153.5 is perhaps the hardest sell that is in direct contradiction to many reports of ghosts, psychics, and other accounts I have witnessed, which states,
"The spirits of the dead do not come back to communicate with their families or one-time friends among the living."
However, for those of you that are proficient with Urantia text, I would imagine that you're already indicating that these beings are likely midwayers, of which I would be inclined to agree with you. For more on midwayers, or the closest thing to ghosts we have in the Urantia Book universe, check out my video for more information. As we move on to Jesus' next topic, I've always been into shows that claim to know the location of the Holy Grail. And I even have a Judaic evil eye charm on my desk that I sincerely wish would actually work given the vocation I perform regularly. But alas, the Urantia Book indicates that in 153.6 that
charms and relics are impotent to heal disease, ward off disaster, or influence evil spirits. The belief in all such material means of influencing the spiritual world is nothing but gross superstition.
If I can redact this statement briefly, I will say items that have spiritual or psychological significance can have almost a placebo effect and can most certainly bolster religious faith or help ward off disease. As a brief example, there was a landmark study conducted in the Kyushu Journal of Medical Science in 1962 named A Psychosomatic Study of Contagious Dermatitis, where Akemi and Nakagawa lied to participants, falsely claiming they rubbed a plant very similar to poison ivy on one of their arms. And on the other arm of the participant, the researcher lied again when they actually rubbed a poisonous plant against the adjacent arm, indicating that this plant was completely safe. Can you guess what happened? On the arm that was rubbed with the leaf, identified as being falsely poisonous, every single one of the 13 subjects developed a skin reaction. And when it came to the arm with the actual poisonous plant that was indicated as being harmless, only 2 of the 13 boys who had previously reported a hypersensitivity to the plant reacted to the poisonous leaves. The mind is an amazing thing, indeed. The next bit located in 153.7 is actually a little bit of a surprise and may go against my once understood reflexology associated with the mysterious and sometimes indirect workings of God. But Jesus indicated,
casting lots. While it may be a convenient way of settling many minor difficulties, it is not a method designed to disclose the divine will. Such outcomes are purely matters of material chance. The only means of communion with the spiritual world is embraced in the spirit endowment of mankind, the indwelling spirit of the Father, together with the outpoured spirit of the Son and the omnipresent influence of the infinite Spirit.
Taking divine will or magic a step further, in 153.8, Jesus indicated that
divination, sorcery, and witchcraft are superstitions of ignorant minds, as also are the delusions of magic. The belief in magic numbers, omens of good luck, and harbingers of bad luck is pure and unfounded superstition.
In 88.6.7, paper 86 makes an excellent account of how much magic is incorporated into our language when it states,
language contains many fossils which testify that the race has long been steeped in magical superstition. Such words as spellbound, ill-starred, possessions, inspiration, spirit away, ingenuity, entrancing, thunderstruck, and astonished. And intelligent human beings still believe in good luck, the evil eye, and astrology.
All right, next off, if you watched my previous video on dreams, you would know that 153.9 places little value on spiritual dream interpretation, indicating
the interpretation of dreams is largely a superstitious and groundless system of ignorant and fantastic speculation. The gospel of the kingdom must have nothing in common with the soothsayer priests of primitive religion.
Also correlating with whole talisman and sorcery aforementioned statement, 153.10 indicates
the spirits of good or evil cannot dwell within material symbols of clay, wood, or metal. Idols are nothing more than the material of which they are made.
This, of course, directly ties into magical idols as well as religious statues. As a friendly reminder for many of my scholarly viewers, 153.11 indicates what we already knew about the occult in that
the practices of the enchanters, the wizards, the magicians, and the sorcerers were derived from the superstitions of the Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, and the ancient Canaanites. Amulets and all sorts of incantations are futile, either to win the protection of good spirits or to ward off supposed evil spirits.
For those of you interested in the origins of the tarot, I would encourage you to check out my video on the Law of One by the Collective Conscious, Ra. Lastly, the final discourse Jesus provided was found in 153.12, denouncing spells, ordeals, bewitching, cursing, signs, mandrakes, knotted cords, and all other forms of ignorant and enslaving superstition. Well, that's all for now. Perhaps we can all sleep a little better at night, knowing that the bumps we hear in the middle of the night isn't necessarily a ghost, ghoul, or James Wan movie antagonist. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you on the next video.